What if I told you passing B1 exam doesn't have to take years? I proved it myself and here's my certificate to show you. And here's the thing, I didn't prepare from random textbooks or generic online materials. I only used the exact system I built inside my program. I actually took the GoTi B1 exam myself to prove that my program is not just a theory, it works. Now what you are about to learn here is only the 2 weeks of my entire fast track B1 program. If you find this helpful and want to go through the entire 6-week program, including all the lessons, practices and resources, then you can check out the link in the description below or in the pinned comment. Now let's get started with the crash course. Hey guys, and welcome to the Fast Track B1 German course. The wait is finally over. The course is here. So let me give you a quick introduction to the course. This course was created specially for expats, international students, or really anyone who wants to pass the B1 exam fast and obviously with confidence. So let's see what you can expect from this course. It's a 6-week step-by-step system that focuses exactly on what you need to pass the GoTi or TELC B1 exam. You will learn real-life grammar, practical ready-made, that means useful phrases, and exam-based strategies that work. And you will get speaking, reading, writing, and listening practices tasks that match the real exam. No fluff, no wasted time. Now let's see who is this course for. This course is for you if you already know A2 German and want to push to B1 fast. You feel stuck with random grammar rules or endless worksheets. You have already booked your B1 exam or plan to take it soon. And lastly, if you want to finally feel confident in daily life, like at work, at the doctor or at the amt. Now here you can see the agenda of this course. Let me break it down for you real quick. So first we have the week number 1, where we will go through only B1 grammar mastery. We will go through the most important B1 level grammar rules in a simple and clear way. Grammar rules like Plusquamperfekt, Passiv, Modal Verben, Redemittel, Adjective Deklination, and more. And the best part, all explained in plain English. Then we'll move into the week number 2, which will be all about everyday situations and vocabs. You will learn how to talk about your daily life, job, school, health, travel, housing, using authentic phrases you will actually use in Germany. And after completing the week number 2, we'll move into week number 3, which will be all about reading plus listening exam training. From this week on, we'll focus on the actual exam. We'll go step by step through every type of reading and listening task that shows up in the real exam with tips and practices. And then we'll continue with the week number 4, which will be all about B1 writing mastery. You will practice writing informal emails, formal emails, and discussion posts, all 3 writing tasks that are 100% part of the B1 exam. And then we'll continue with week number 5, which will be all about B1 speaking mastery. We'll train all 3 speaking parts like planning something together, presenting a topic, and discussing your topic with your partner. And throughout this week, you will learn ready-made strategy and how to stay calm under pressure. And finally, in week number 6, we'll talk about final review plus strategy. This week is all about mock test, final tips, and mindset. You will also learn how to manage time during the exam and what the examiners are really looking for. And don't worry, we'll practice each of these tasks throughout the course. By the time you finish, the exam will feel familiar and your German will feel natural. So without any further ado, let's get started. Hey guys, and welcome to the first day of our first week. And before we start with our actual lesson, let's see which videos or which lessons we are going to cover in this entire week. So week number 1, B1 grammar mastery. So the first lesson of the first day of the week will be around tense overview and time concepts. That means today in this video we are going to talk about tense overview and time concepts. In the next lesson or in tomorrow's video we are going to talk about modal verb, present, past and alternatives. Then the third number day will be around passive, Vorgangspassiv und Zustandpassiv. That's exactly how you use passive in English, but in German you have to say passive. Then in the 4th video we are going to talk about Nomen Verb Verbindung. Then on the 5th day we are going to talk about Adjective Mastery. Then on the 6th day we are going to talk about Konjunktionen und Satzverbindungen. And finally on the last day of the week we are going to talk about Nominalisierung. So as you can see, this is the overview of the whole week. So that means in this first week we'll only focus on grammar mastery, and these are some essential grammars which you have to master at B1 level. So let's start with the first lesson or the first day of the week, which is tense overview and time concepts. And here is what we are going to cover. At first, what tense do you need at B1? Then the difference between tenses, Plusquamperfekt, Futur 1 und Futur 2. So let's start with the first point of this video, which is what tenses do you actually need at B1 level? Here's the list you should focus on. At first, present tense. That's the basic one, presence. And this is mostly used for now, habits or general facts. For example, ich lerne Deutsch. Ich lerne Deutsch. I'm learning German. That's the basic one. In case you want to express what you're doing currently or right now, you just use the present tense or presence in German. Then we have the next one, which is present perfect or perfect in German. This is mostly used in spoken past, what happened before. For example, ich habe Deutsch gelernt. Ich habe Deutsch gelernt. That means I learned German. That's also a basic level. If you already passed your A1 or A2, you should know them, like the present tense or the perfect tense. We are starting from the fundamentals so that you can catch up step by step. Then we have the simple past or known as Präteritum in German. And this is mostly used in writing and storytelling. For example, ich lernte Deutsch. Ich lernte Deutsch. In perfect, you say ich habe Deutsch gelernt, but in Präteritum, you say ich lernte Deutsch. The English translation for both are same. I learned German. If you want to express the past tense in writing or storytelling, you use the Präteritum. And in generally spoken German, you use the perfect form. Now from here comes some advanced one. The first one is past perfect or Plusquamperfekt in German. Describes something that happened before something else. For example, ich hatte gegessen, bevor ich gegangen bin. Ich hatte gegessen, bevor ich gegangen bin. I had eaten before I left. So as you can see, we are describing something that happened before something else. So we ate before we left. That's why it's Plusquamperfekt. Now the next tense is future tense or Futur 1. This is mostly used for plans and assumptions. For example, ich werde morgen lernen. Ich werde morgen lernen. That means I will study tomorrow. As you can see, this is your tomorrow's plan. That's why you use the future tense or Futur 1. Now here comes the advanced one, future perfect or Futur 2. And this tense is mostly used for something that will be finished in the future. For example, ich werde das Buch gelesen haben. Ich werde das Buch gelesen haben. That means I will have read the book. This is something that will be finished in the future. That's why we use the future perfect or Futur 2. And here's the thing, at B1 level, you will be expected to use at least 3 to 4 of them in your writing and speaking exam. Now let's see the difference between each side form or the tenses. On the left side, we have the side form or the tenses. Then we have a Beispiel or the example. And then we have wann verwendet. That means when should we use. So at first, we have the presence or the present tense. Presence, Beispiel or example. Ich lerne Deutsch. This is the basic one. I learn German. Jetzt regelmäßig allgemein. That means now, regularly or generally. Then we have Präteritum. Ich lernte Deutsch. Ich lernte Deutsch. Schriftliche Vergangenheit. So writing past. Then we have perfect. Ich habe Deutsch gelernt. Ich habe Deutsch gelernt. That's also past tense. Gesprochene Vergangenheit. Speaking past. Then we have Plusquamperfekt. Ich hatte Deutsch gelernt. Ich hatte Deutsch gelernt. That's used in Vorvergangenheit. That means something happened before something. Then we have Futur 1, normal future tense. Ich werde Deutsch lernen. Ich werde Deutsch lernen. I will learn German. It's used in Zukunft or Vermutung. That means in future or some plans, assumptions. And then we have Futur 2, the advanced one. Here is example. Ich werde Deutsch gelernt haben. Ich werde Deutsch gelernt haben. Wann verwendet? Handlung wird abgeschlossen sein. That means something that will be finished in the future. If you want, you can take a screenshot of the table so that you have a quick overview of all the tenses in German. Now that you have seen the big picture of German tenses, let's zoom in on 3 really important ones for the B1 level. And which you already know. These are Plusquamperfekt, the past before the past, then Futur 1, simple future and guesses, and Futur 2, the future that's already finished. Let's take them one by one. Don't worry, we'll keep it simple and clear. We have the first one here, Plusquamperfekt, the past before something else. You already know how to say what happened. This was the perfect. Ich habe gegessen. But what if you want to say, I had eaten before I went out? That's exactly where Plusquamperfekt comes in. Here is the structure. Hatte or war plus Partizip 2, past participle. Let's see an example. Ich hatte gegessen. Ich hatte gegessen. Then the next example, war gegangen. War gegangen. He had gone. So as you can see, you have to turn the verb in Partizip 2 like you do for the perfect one. But in this case, you don't use haben, you use hatten. Okay. Ich hatte gegessen. That's for no movement, but if you have any movement, like you're going somewhere else, you are writing something, or you have any kind of movement, then you'll use the war or the sein form. That's the thing. Use hatte with most verbs. Use war only with motion or change verbs like gehen, kommen, bleiben, etc. Here we have an example in context. Bevor ich zur Arbeit ging, hatte ich gefrühstückt. Bevor ich zur Arbeit ging, hatte ich gefrühstückt. That means before I went to work, I had eaten breakfast. Now let's talk about the simple future tense, which is Futur 1. Talking about the future and guesses. In real life, German use presents for the future most of the time. For example, morgen gehe ich zur Schule. And that means basically I will go to school tomorrow. As you can see in normal English, we use I will go to the school tomorrow. But normally in German, you don't use I will go to the school. You just say I go to the school for the future. Like in normal German, you don't say morgen werde ich zur Schule gehen. You just use morgen gehe ich zur Schule. But Futur 1 is used in formal situations, when you want to sound clear or emphasize, when you guess or make assumptions. Here's the structure for the Futur 1. Werden, then plus infinitive of the verb. Okay? For example, ich werde lernen. Ich werde lernen. I will study. Or sie wird zu spät kommen. Sie wird zu spät kommen. She will probably be late. We use the werden verb and conjugate it for the subject. For example, in case of ich, you say ich werde. In case of sie, you use sie wird. Then the full form of the verb, okay? The infinitive form of the verb, lernen. You don't say ich werde lerne. You say ich werde lernen. Sie wird zu spät kommen, okay? Sie wird zu spät kommst is wrong. Sie wird zu spät kommen is right. And as you can see, these are some plans or assumptions you are making. For example, you are planning to learn, or you are making an assumption that she will be late. So yes, Futur 1 is also used for predictions or assumptions. It's probably called will be as wird kann sein in German. As you can see, we are using the word probably. That means we are making an assumption. That's why as wird kann sein. And here's some example in context. Ich werde dich morgen anrufen. Ich werde dich morgen anrufen. I will call you tomorrow. Or wird im Stau stehen. Wird im Stau stehen. He's probably stuck in traffic. So as you can see, ich werde dich morgen anrufen. It's a planning, like you are planning to call her or him tomorrow. Or wird im Stau stehen. He's probably stuck in. You're making an assumption. That's why it's Futur 1. Now let's continue with another advanced tense, which is Futur 2. Something will be done in the future. This is where it gets a little fancy, but don't worry. Something will have happened by a certain point in the future. Here's the structure. Werden plus Partizip 2 plus haben or sein. For example, ich werde gegessen haben. Ich werde gegessen haben. I will have eaten. Or let's say, wird angekommen sein. Wird angekommen sein. As you can see, we use the werden verb here, but we have to conjugate it according to the subject. For example, for ich werde, for wird. Then Partizip 2, gegessen, angekommen. These are the Partizip 2 of the verb. Then haben or sein. In case of no motion, we use haben. In case of any motion, like you're going somewhere else, then sein. I will have eaten. Ich werde gegessen haben. He will have arrived. Wird angekommen sein. So now the question is, when do you use it? When you want to show that something will be completed before something else in the future. For example, bis morgen werde ich den Text geschrieben haben. Bis morgen werde ich den Text geschrieben haben. By tomorrow I will have written the text. Or sie wird angekommen sein, wenn wir anrufen. Sie wird angekommen sein, wenn wir anrufen. She will have arrived when we call. Now here's a summary of all three tenses. On the left side we have the tenses, in the middle we have the when to use it, and on the right side we have the examples. Let's start with the first one, Plusquamperfekt. When to use it? Past before another past. For example, ich hatte gegessen. Then we have the Futur 1. When do you use it? Future plans or assumptions. For example, ich werde lernen. Ich werde lernen. Then we have the next tense, Futur 2. Action finished in the future. When do you use it? Action finished in the future. For example, ich werde gelernt haben. So congratulations on completing first day. In today's video, we have just covered the tenses and went through some advanced tenses. This was the fundamental thing to learn at B1. In the upcoming videos, we are going to deep dive into more advanced things. So see you in tomorrow's video. Till then, take care. Bye bye. Hey guys, and welcome to the second day of first week. And in today's video, we are going to talk about Modal Verben, present, past, and alternatives. And here is what we are going to cover. At first, what are modal verbs and why important? Then using modal verbs in present tense, modal verbs in past tense, perfect, modal verbs plus passive, and then finally alternatives to modal verbs. So let's start with our first point of this video, which is what are modal verbs and why should you care? Modal verbs add meaning to another verb. They don't stand alone. They support a second verb to express ability, permission, intention, obligation, preference. And here are the 6 core modal verbs in German. On the left side we have the modal verbs in German. On the right side we have the English translation. So at first we have the können. Können means can or be able to. Then müssen, must or have to. Dürfen, may, be allowed to. Then sollen, should or supposed to. Then wollen, want to. Mögen, like to or enjoy. These are some basic modal verbs we use in our day-to-day life. And if you passed your A1 or A2 level, you should have learned this by now. In this lesson, my goal is not to show you how to use modal verb. Rather than I will show you some advanced things, what you can do with the modal verbs. Let's cover the point modal verbs in present tense. Let's look at how modal verbs work in the present tense. The structure is super simple. Subject plus modal verb conjugated for the according to the subject. Then the rest of the sentence like the object plus main verb, but in its infinitive form at the end. Let's see some examples. Ich kann gut tanzen. Ich kann gut tanzen. I can dance well. Then wir müssen heute arbeiten. Wir müssen heute arbeiten. We have to work today. Then darf ich hier parken? Darf ich hier parken? Am I allowed to park here? So you can see the common traits here. At first we have the subject, then we have the modal verb but conjugated for the subject, then the rest of the sentence or the object, and finally the verb but in its infinitive form. You don't say ich kann gut tanzen, you say ich kann gut tanzen because you are using the modal verb. Same goes here. Wir müssen heute arbeiten. Wir müssen heute arbeiten. So müssen is conjugated for wir, also müssen. Dürfen is conjugated for ich, darf. Darf ich hier dann parken in its infinitive form. So far so good, right? You have probably learned this in your A2 level. Now let's go one step deeper. The next point is modal verbs in the past or perfect in German. Here's where B1 level grammar starts kicking in. To talk about the past with modal verbs, we use a special perfect form, and the structure is haben conjugated for the subject plus participle zwei of the main verb, then modal verb in its infinitive form. Let's see some example. Ich habe schwimmen können. Ich habe schwimmen können. I was able to swim. Hat ins Krankenhaus gehen müssen. Hat ins Krankenhaus gehen müssen. He had to go to the hospital. So as you can see the structure, at first we have to conjugate haben for the subject, ich habe, then the main verb in its infinitive form, okay, we have it schwimmen, then we have the main modal verb, können. I was able to swim. That means in the past I was able to do something. Then hat ins Krankenhaus gehen müssen, so hat conjugated for then gehen in its infinitive form, then the modal verb. Here we have some more example. Wir haben länger bleiben dürfen. Wir haben länger bleiben dürfen. We were allowed to stay longer. Then we have du hast nicht rauchen dürfen. Du hast nicht rauchen dürfen. That means you were not allowed to smoke. And here's an important note. This construction is often used in writing and formal speech. And yes, it shows up in the exam. Now let's continue with the next point, which is modal verbs plus passive, sounding more professional. You can also combine modal verbs with passive, and this is great way to sound more B1 level and polished. And here's the structure. Modal verb conjugated according to the subject, then participle zwei, then werden. Let's understand this through some examples. Die Wohnung muss renoviert werden. Die Wohnung muss renoviert werden. The apartment must be renovated. We have another example here. Das Formular kann online ausgefüllt werden. Das Formular kann online ausgefüllt werden. That means the form can be filled out online. Here in this case, the subject is die Wohnung, and in this case, the subject was das Formular. So muss can conjugated according to the subject, die or das, then renoviert. So the main verb in Partizip 2. So renovieren turned into renoviert. Ausfüllen turned into ausgefüllt, the Partizip 2. Then werden, or here we have also the werden. Okay, so this is the structure of that if you want to combine the modal verb with passive. And this is very common in job related or official conversations. And when to use them, how to use them, we'll dive deep later in the upcoming videos. Now let's continue the last point of this video, which is alternatives to modal verbs for formal and exam use. Here is the final B1 trick. Use alternative expressions to replace modal verbs. This sounds more polite, academic, and is perfect for B1 writing tasks. Let's look at a few. On the left side, we have the verb, modal verbs. In the middle, we have the alternatives. Then we have the examples here. Okay. So the first one is können. Instead of using können, you can use in der Lage sein, or as is möglich. Okay. For example, ich bin in der Lage zu helfen. Instead of saying ich kann helfen, you can say ich bin in der Lage zu helfen. Then we have dürfen. Instead of dürfen, you can use es ist erlaubt or die Erlaubnis haben. For example, es ist erlaubt, hier zu parken. Instead of saying müssen, you can say es ist notwendig or gezwungen sein. Es ist notwendig, für zu kommen. It's necessary or it's essential to come early. Then we have sollen. Instead of saying sollen, you can use es ist empfohlen or vorgesehen. Es ist empfohlen, regelmäßig zu lernen. It's recommended to learn regularly. Instead of saying directly, du sollst lernen, you can just say, es ist empfohlen, regelmäßig zu lernen. It's more professional and formal. Then we have wollen. Instead of saying wollen, you can use die Absicht haben or planen. For example, ich habe die Absicht, nach Deutschland zu reisen. Ich habe die Absicht, nach Deutschland zu reisen. So that means instead of saying ich will nach Deutschland reisen, you can say it in more formal way. Then we have mögen. Etwas gerne tun or bevorzugen. For example, ich bevorzuge Tee statt Kaffee. That means I prefer tea than coffee. Instead of directly saying ich mag Kaffee, you can just give some spice to it and say ich bevorzuge Tee statt Kaffee. And don't worry, you don't have to use them from day one. You can practice them and eventually you can use them in day-to-day life. These phrases are gold for your writing exam, so use them. So here's a quick recap for today's lesson. Modal verbs change the meaning of a sentence. In present tense, they are easy and super common. In perfect, they follow a special structure and you need it for exams. Modal verbs plus passive equal to level up your writing or speaking. And finally, some alternatives help you sound more formal. Great for letters, emails, and essays. So congratulations on completing second day. In today's video, we went through some advanced thing of the modal verbs. In tomorrow's video, we are going to talk about even more about the passive. So see you in tomorrow's video. Till then, take care. Bye bye. Hey guys, and welcome to the third day of first week. As mentioned in the previous video, today we are going to talk about passive, Vorgangspassiv und Zustandpassiv. Now let's see what we are going to cover in this video. Today we are going to cover what is the passive voice. Vorgangspassiv is equal to the action is happening. Then the Zustandpassiv is equal to the result or the state. Then when to use which, like when to use the Vorgangspassiv and when to use the Zustandpassiv. And finally, passive for formal writing. So let's start with our first point, which is what is passive voice. So you might have seen sentences like das Auto wird repariert, das Auto wird repariert, or das Fenster ist geöffnet, das Fenster ist geöffnet. And maybe you have wondered who is repairing the car or who opened the window. And that's the beauty of passive voice. In English and in German, passive voice focuses on the action or the result, not the person doing it. So here's an example situation of both active and passive voice. Let's see the active one. Der Mechaniker repariert das Auto. Der Mechaniker repariert das Auto. On the other hand, If you want to say it in passive voice, you say das Auto wird repariert. Das Auto wird repariert. As you can see, on the active voice, we need a subject here, der Mechaniker. But on the other hand, in passive voice, you don't need a subject. You can just say das Auto wird repariert. So the car will be repaired. As you can see, the person is not important here, the action is. We use the passive voice a lot in news reports, instructions, formal writing, and exams like GOITI B1. So now first understand the Vorgangspassiv, the process passive. This is the most common type at B1 level. It focuses only on the action. And here's the formula. Werden conjugated according to the subject, then plus participe zwei. So as you can see here, we have a table. On the left side, we have the tenses. In the middle, we have the examples. And on the right side, we have the meaning of that. So let's cover each of them. At first, we have the presence here. So in presence, here is an example. Das Auto wird repariert. Das Auto wird repariert. That means the car is being repaired. That means it's happening in the present. But if you want to explain something in past, you will use either Präteritum or Perfect. So let's see an example with Präteritum. Das Auto wurde repariert. Das Auto wurde repariert. The car was repaired. Okay, the car was repaired. Das Auto wurde. Instead of werden or wird, you say wurde. Then you have the perfect one. The example is das Auto ist repariert worden. Das Auto ist repariert worden. The car has been repaired. Okay, so these two are meant to be explain something in past, and this one is happening in the present. And this Vorgangspassive form focuses on the action. For example, die Tür wird geöffnet. Die Tür wird geöffnet. The door is being opened. As you can see, it's an action happening. That's why it's a Vorgangspassiv. We don't care who does it, just that it's happening. Now let's cover the second form of passive, which is Zustandspassiv, the result passive. Zustandspassiv shows the result or the state after something has happened. Here's the formula. Sein conjugated for the verb, then participe zwei. So here we have a table again, and on the left side we have the tenses, in the middle examples, and on the right side we have the meaning. So let's cover each of them. So at first we have the presence. Das Fenster ist geöffnet. Das Fenster ist geöffnet. That means the window is open. Okay. Then if you want to describe something in the past, you would use Präteritum. Die Tür war geschlossen. Die Tür war geschlossen. The door was open. Okay. So as you can see, you are not describing the action, you are describing the condition after the action. Okay. Example. Das Bett ist gemacht. Das Bett ist gemacht. The bed is made. So previously in the examples, you can see the window is open. That's a state or the result after something happened. Okay. For example, someone opened the window and then you want to describe the situation. Then you will use the Zustandspassiv. Das Fenster ist geöffnet. The window is open. Or die Tür war geschlossen. The door was closed. Okay, you are not doing actively something. It wasn't an action or something. It was a result or a state of something. Now let's compare both of them. Vorgang versus Zustandspassiv. When to use what? And here's the golden rule to remember. Use Vorgangspassiv when the action is the focus. Okay, and use Zustandspassiv when the result or the state is the focus. For example, die Tür wird geöffnet. Die Tür wird geöffnet. The door is being opened. It's process happening now. That's why it's Vorgangspassiv. On the other hand, die Tür ist geöffnet. Die Tür ist geöffnet. The door is open. The result is visible. That's why it's Zustandspassiv. Easy trick. Werden is something it's happening and sein is already done. Now let's cover the point passive for formal writing. In B1 writing tasks like letters, emails and reports, using passive makes your language sound more formal and professional. Instead of saying man repariert die Straße, you could just say die Straße wird repariert. Die Straße wird repariert. So here's the quick recap for today's lesson. Passive is equal to focus on action result, not the doer. Vorgangspassiv is equal to werden plus participe zwei, action happening. Okay, like something is happening actively. Then we have Zustandspassiv, sein plus participe zwei, and it indicates the result or the state of something. And finally, use it in formal writings and B1 exams. So congratulations on completing third day. In today's video, we have just covered the passive voice. In tomorrow's video, we are going to talk about Nomen Verb Verbindung. So see you in tomorrow's video. Till then, take care. Bye-bye. Hey guys, and welcome to the day 4th of first week. In today's video, we are going to talk about Nomen Verb Verbindung. In today's lesson, we are going to cover what are exactly Nomen Verb Verbindungen. Then why are they important at B1 level? Common examples every B1 learner should learn, how to use them correctly in context, and finally mini strategy, how to remember them easily. Now let's continue with the first point of this video, which is what are Nomen, Verb, Verbindungen. So what are these things? They are phrases where you use a noun plus a verb instead of just a simple verb. Why? Because it makes your German sound more natural, formal and professional, especially in writing. For example, instead of saying ich entscheide mich, you could just use ich treffe eine Entscheidung. Ich treffe eine Entscheidung. You see, it sounds more professional and formal. Now let's talk about why they're important for B1. These combinations show up all the time in letters, emails and exam tasks. And if you want to write a formal letter or a forum post in your B1 exam, this is your golden tool. They also help you avoid repetition and make your sentences more varied. So yes, knowing this will boost your writing score and make you sound like a more confident speaker. Now let's cover the next point, which is must-learn examples at B1 level. So now let's go through a few you must learn for B1. So as you can see, here are some Nomen, Verb, Verbindungen for B1 level. So on the left side we have the Nomen, Verb, Verbindungen, and on the right side we have the Bedeutung or Beispiel. Okay, so let's go through each of them. So at first we have the eine Entscheidung treffen. That means to decide or entscheiden. So here we have an example. Ich habe eine wichtige Entscheidung getroffen. Ich habe eine wichtige Entscheidung getroffen. Then we have einen Antrag stellen. Einen Antrag stellen is the replacement of beantragen. Okay? Instead of saying ich beantrage etwas, you can just say ich habe einen Antrag auf Urlaub gestellt. So instead of saying ich beantrage Urlaub, you could use ich habe einen Antrag auf Urlaub gestellt. Then we have the next one. In Frage kommen. In Frage kommen is the replacement of möglich sein. For example, eine Reise kommt für mich im Moment nicht in Frage. So instead of saying eine Reise ist leider im Moment nicht möglich, you could just say eine Reise kommt für mich im Moment nicht in Frage. Then we have the next one, zur Verfügung stehen. Zur Verfügung stehen. This is the replacement of verfügbar. Die Information steht online zur Verfügung. Next we have zur Verfügung stellen. Okay? Verfügbar. It's also the replacement of verfügbar. Die Firma stellt uns Computer zur Verfügung. Okay? Then we have in Kontakt stehen mit. So instead of using Kontakt haben, you can use ich stehe mit meinem Kollegen in Kontakt. Okay? Then we have eine Frage stellen. Eine Frage stellen. So this is the replacement of Fragen. Darf ich Ihnen eine Frage stellen? So instead of just saying, darf ich Sie fragen, darf ich Sie etwas fragen, you can use, darf ich Ihnen eine Frage stellen? Then we have eine Antwort geben. Eine Antwort geben. So it's the replacement of antworten. Er hat mir sofort eine Antwort gegeben. Er hat mir sofort eine Antwort gegeben. Next we have Hilfe leisten. This is the replacement of helfen. So here we have example. Danke, dass Sie mir Hilfe geleistet haben. So instead of just saying, danke, dass Sie mir geholfen haben, you can use, danke, dass Sie mir Hilfe geleistet haben. More professional. Then we have einen Beitrag leisten. So beitragen, instead of using beitragen, you can say, jeder kann einen Beitrag zum Umweltschutz leisten. Jeder kann einen Beitrag zum Umweltschutz leisten. Next we have Vorbereitungen treffen. So this is the replacement of vorbereiten. Wir müssen noch einige Vorbereitungen treffen. So instead of just saying, wir müssen noch einige Sachen vorbereiten, you can use more professional way. Wir müssen noch einige Vorbereitungen treffen. Okay? Then we have in Schwierigkeiten geraten. In Schwierigkeiten geraten. And this is the replacement of Probleme bekommen. Er ist durch Schulden in Schwierigkeiten geraten. Er ist durch Schulden in Schwierigkeiten geraten. So instead of saying, er ist durch Schulden Probleme bekommen, you can use, er ist durch Schulden in Schwierigkeiten geraten. Then we have zur Sprache bringen. Zur Sprache bringen. So this is the replacement of ansprechen. Das Thema wurde nicht zur Sprache gebracht. Das Thema wurde nicht zur Sprache gebracht. More professional. Then we have eine Meinung vertreten. Eine Meinung vertreten. So that's the replacement of meinen. Ich vertrete die Meinung, dass. Then the rest of the sentence you want to say. And next we have eine Entscheidung fällen. Eine Entscheidung fällen. It's also the replacement of entscheiden. Das Gericht hat eine Entscheidung gefällt. Das Gericht hat eine Entscheidung gefällt. So next we have Abschied nehmen von. This is the replacement of sich verabschieden. Wir nehmen Abschied von unseren Freunden. So instead of saying, wir verabschieden uns. You can use more formally. Wir nehmen Abschied von unseren Freunden. Then we have Verantwortung übernehmen. Verantwortung übernehmen. This is the replacement of verantwortlich sein. So instead of saying ich bin verantwortlich, you can use ich übernehme die Verantwortung dafür. Next we have Erinnerung haben an. This is the replacement of sich erinnern. So ich habe keine Erinnerung an dieses Ereignis. Okay? So instead of saying ich erinnere mich nicht, you can say ich habe keine Erinnerung. Next we have einen Fehler machen. This is the replacement of sich irren. Okay? Ich habe einen großen Fehler gemacht. Ich habe einen großen Fehler gemacht. Then lastly we have Interesse zeigen an. Interesse zeigen an. Sich interessieren. This is the replacement of sich interessieren. For example, viele zeigen Interesse an diesem Kurs. So instead of saying viele interessieren sich für den Kurs, you can use viele zeigen Interesse an diesem Kurs. I know this all can feel overwhelmed at the first, but no worries, with daily practice you can master them. And don't worry, you can find the file under the video in the resources. Now let's look at one in a sentence. Ich möchte einen Antrag auf das Visum stellen. Ich möchte einen Antrag auf das Visum stellen. Sounds much better than ich möchte das Visum beantragen, okay? You could also use ich möchte das Visum beantragen, but if you can say ich möchte einen Antrag auf das Visum stellen, it sounds like you are at B1 level and more professional. Now let's talk about the point how to use them in real sentences. Now let's see how you can plug them into your everyday speech and writing. Most of these follow this pattern. Subject plus the verb plus Article plus Noun. Okay? Let's see some examples. Wir müssen eine Entscheidung treffen. Wir müssen eine Entscheidung treffen. Sie hat Kritik an meinem Text geübt. Sie hat Kritik an meinem Text geübt. Wir sollten Rücksicht auf andere nehmen. Wir sollten Rücksicht auf andere nehmen. As you can see, the structure is subject, then the verb, then article, and then finally the noun. Okay, so no need to memorize long grammar rules, just copy the structure and use them as chunks. Now let's talk about how to remember them easily. Here's a trick I teach my students. Group them by the main verb. For example, all with machen. Let's say einen Fehler machen, eine Pause machen, einen Plan machen. Then we have all with nehmen, Rücksicht nehmen, Stellung nehmen, Einfluss nehmen. All with treffen, like eine Entscheidung treffen, Maßnahmen treffen. So as you can see, you can group them by the main verb. The verbs repeat, so you just have to learn the right noun with it. So here's the quick recap for today's lesson. Nomen Verb Verbindungen make your German formal and fluent. They are super useful for B1 writing and speaking. You now know the most common ones. I just showed you the Google Doc where we went through lots of them, and you have learned how to use and memorize them like a pro. Conclusion: congratulations on completing 4th day. In today's video, we have just went through the Nomen Verb Verbindungen, and in tomorrow's video we are going to talk about Adjective Mastery. So see you in tomorrow's video. Till then, take care. Bye bye. Hey guys, and welcome to the 5th day of first week. In today's video we are going to talk about Adjective Mastery. In today's lesson we are going to cover what is adjective declension, 10 declension patterns made simple, Partizip 1 versus Partizip 2 as adjectives, common mistakes and pro tips. Now let's start with the first topic, which is what is adjective declension. In English, adjectives usually stay the same. For example, we say a beautiful house, a beautiful girl, a beautiful people. So beautiful never changes. But in German, the adjective changes its ending depending on the gender of the noun, like der, die, das, or the case like nominative, accusative, dative or genitive, then the number, singular or plural, and finally the type of article you use, like the definite, indefinite or none. Yes, it sounds like a lot, but I promise we'll break it down. Let's cover the next point, which is the 3 declension patterns. There are 3 main patterns to learn based on the article that comes before the adjective. Pattern number 1 with the definite article, like der, die, das. In this case, we use weak endings. For example, der schöne Tag, die kleine Katze, das neue Auto. As you can see, we didn't change anything at the ending. With the article, we just use an E at the end, okay? Die kleine, der schöne or das neue Auto. Now let's cover the second pattern, which is with an indefinite article. In this case, ein or eine, we use mixed endings. For example, ein schöner Tag, ein schöner Tag, or eine kleine Katze, eine kleine Katze, or ein neues Auto, ein neues Auto. As you can see, depending on the main article like der, die, das, we used the adjective here. Der, that's why schöner. Die Katze, that's why kleine. Das Auto, that's why neues. Okay, so the indefinite article remain the same, but the ending of the adjective you have to change according to the article. Okay, der Tag, that's why schöner. So die Katze, kleine Katze, das Auto, neues Auto. Now let's cover the third point, which is with no article. In this case, we use strong endings like schöner Tag, kleine Katze, neues Auto. And here's the rule of thumb. If the article gives clear information, the adjective takes a weaker ending. If the adjective takes more responsibility, then strong ending. Now let's cover the next point, which is participles as adjectives. Now let's look at participle eins and zwei used as adjectives. These are verbs turned into adjectives. Participle eins shows an ongoing action, like the English ending with ing. Okay? For example, die lachende Frau, the laughing woman. Okay? Then we have ein brennendes Auto, a burning car. Okay, so as you can see, the ending with e and g. Then we have the participle zwei, shows a completed action. Okay, like in English, ed at the end or past participle. Here are some example. Das geschriebene Buch, the written book. Okay, or let's say der geschlossene Laden, the closed shop, as you can see, is already in the past or already done. That's why written, closed, das geschriebene Buch, der geschlossene Laden, participle zwei. Now let's go through a few you must learn for B1. So at first we'll cover the participle eins, active meaning, the doing. Describe something currently happening or ongoing. Okay, so on the left side we have the participle eins or the adjectives. In the middle we have the Bedeutung, and on the right side we have the Beispiel. Okay, so interessierend, and the meaning of interessierend is interesting. So here's a Beispiel: ein interessierendes Thema. Then we have langweilend, boring, eine langweilige Aufgabe. Then we have funktionierend. Funktionieren means working. Ein gut funktionierendes Gerät. Then we have beeindruckend. Beeindruckend means impressive. Ein beeindruckendes Gebäude. Ein beeindruckendes Gebäude. If you can't spell it in one chunk, let's try to divide it, okay? Beeindruckendes, okay? Beeindruckendes Gebäude. Then we have überraschend. Überraschend. Meaning of the überraschend is surprising, okay? Eine überraschende Nachricht. Then we have nervend. Nervend. That means in English annoying. Ein nervendes Ton. Ein nervendes Ton. Then we have bewegend. Bewegend. Moving emotionally, okay? Ein bewegender Film. Ein bewegender Film. Then we have entspannen. Entspannen. Relaxing. Ein entspannendes Wochenende. Ein entspannendes Wochenende. Why entspannendes? Because Wochenende has the article das. That's why ein entspannendes Wochenende. Then we have störend. Störend. Störend means disturbing. Ein störender Lärm. Ein störender Lärm. Lächelnd. Lächeln means smiling. Ein lächelndes Kind. Ein lächelndes Kind. Now let's cover the participle zwei. Passive or result or done. Okay, describe something finished or effected by an action. On the left side we have the participle. In the middle we have the Bedeutung or the meaning, and on the right side we have the Beispiel. Interessiert. Interessiert. That means interested. Ein interessierter Student. Ein interessierter Student. Then we have gelangweilt. Gelangweilt. Bored. Ein gelangweilter Zuhörer. Ein gelangweilter Zuhörer. Then we have beschädigt. Beschädigt. Damaged. Ein beschädigtes Auto. Ein beschädigtes Auto. Then we have entspannt. Entspannt. Entspannt means relaxed. Ein entspannter Urlauber. Ein entspannter Urlauber. Then we have geschrieben. Geschrieben. That means written. Ein geschriebener Brief. Ein geschriebener Brief. Then we have geschlossen. Geschlossen. closed. Ein geschlossenes Geschäft. Ein geschlossenes Geschäft. Then we have verärgert, verärgert, erneut or upset. Ein verärgerter Kunde, ein verärgerter Kunde. Then we have verheiratet, verheiratet, that means married. Example, ein verheiratetes Paar, ein verheiratetes Paar. Paar has article das, that's why tes, okay? Then we have verloren, lost. Ein verlorener Schlüssel, ein verlorener Schlüssel, okay? And lastly we have vergessen, forgotten. Ein vergessene Tasche, eine vergessene Tasche. Again, this can feel overwhelmed, but no worries, with the daily practice, you can master them as well. And you can also find the document down below in the resources. So whether it's die lachende Frau or die geschriebene E-Mail, the endings depend on the article, gender, case, and number. Now let's cover the point common mistakes and quick tips. Here are some common mistakes B1 learners make. Using the wrong adjective ending with ein or kein, forgetting to change the adjective when the noun is in dative or accusative, confusing between participle eins and participle zwei. Now here are some quick tips to avoid this. Always check what's the article, what's the case. Learn adjective patterns with the noun together. For example, ein guter Freund, mit einer netten Kollegin. You can learn the patterns with examples. Then finally practice with tables but speak them out loud, full phrases. So here's the quick recap for today's lesson. We have learned how adjective endings work in German with 3 different article types. Then how participle eins and participle zwei can act like adjectives. And finally some examples and tips to remember the rules. So conclusion, congratulations on completing 5th day. I understand it can feel hard in the beginning. That's why I would suggest you to revise the video again and again. So today we have just learned how to master the adjectives. In tomorrow's video we are going to talk about Konjunktionen and Satzverbindungen. So see you in tomorrow's video. Till then, take care. Bye bye. Hey guys, and welcome to the day 6 of first week. And today's video we are going to talk about Konjunktionen and Satzverbindungen. Now let's see what we are going to cover in today's video. 3 types of connectors in German: coordinating conjunctions, verb stays in the second position; subordinating conjunctions, verb goes to the end; Satzverbinden, sentence adverbs; and finally some real world examples plus common mistakes. So let's start with the first point of today's lesson, which is 3 types of connectors in German. In German there are 3 main types of connectors and each one affects the word order differently. So the first one is coordinating conjunctions, nebenordnende Konjunktionen. Then we have the subordinating conjunctions, unterordnende Konjunktionen. Then we have sentence adverbs or the Satzverbinden. So let's start with the first one, which is coordinating conjunctions. First up, coordinating conjunctions. These are simple and friendly. They connect 2 main clauses. And here's the rule. Word order stays the same. Here are some examples. Und, aber, denn, oder, sondern. Let's look at this. Ich lerne Deutsch und ich höre deutsches Podcast. Ich lerne Deutsch und ich höre deutsche Podcasts. So that basically means I'm learning German and I'm listening to German podcast. See, both sides are full sentences and the verb stays in the second position. As you can see, ich lerne Deutsch. It's a full sentence. Then ich höre deutsche Podcasts. So the verb remain in the second position and nothing changes. Now let's talk about the subordinating conjunctions. Now the more tricky ones. Subordinate conjunctions, they introduce a dependent clause, okay? And here's the catch. The verb moves to the end of the clause. So here are some examples of subordinate conjunctions, okay? Weil, das, obwohl, wenn, damit, bevor, nachdem, sobald, okay? So weil means because, das means that, obwohl means although, when, if or when, damit, so that, before, nachdem, after, and sobald, as soon as, okay? So let's check this. Ich bleibe zu Hause, weil ich krank bin. Ich bleibe zu Hause, weil ich krank bin. I'm staying at home because I'm sick. So as you can see, while if you use the subordinate conjunction, the verb goes to the end, okay? Here's another example. Ich glaube, dass du recht hast. Ich glaube, dass du recht hast. I guess you're right. Now let's cover the third type, which is Satzverbinden or sentence adverb. Now let's talk about Satzverbinden. They usually start a new sentence and directly affect word order. And here's the rule. the verb comes immediately after the connector. And here are some examples of Satzverben. Deshalb, trotzdem, danach, jedoch, außerdem. So deshalb means therefore, trotzdem means nevertheless, then danach means after that, jedoch means however, and außerdem means besides or also. Check this out. Ich war müde, trotzdem ging ich ins Fitnessstudio. Ich war müde, trotzdem ging ich ins Fitnessstudio. So as you can see, ging, the verb comes after trotzdem, okay? So in this case, the rule is the verb directly comes after the Satzverben. Then here's another one. Ich habe viel gelernt, deshalb habe ich die Prüfung bestanden. Ich habe viel gelernt, deshalb habe ich die Prüfung bestanden. Connector, then verb, then subject. As you can see, here's the connector, deshalb, then comes the verb, haben, and then the subject. Now let's cover the point, real world tips and common mistakes. Now let's wrap up with some real life tips and common mistakes. Many learners make this mistake. Ich gehe nicht ins Kino, weil ich habe keine Zeit. It's wrong, okay? Ich gehe nicht ins Kino, weil ich habe keine Zeit. It's wrong. You say, ich gehe nicht ins Kino, weil ich keine Zeit habe. Ich gehe nicht ins Kino, weil ich keine Zeit habe. So, haben, the verb always comes at the end if you use a connector, okay? So don't forget when using weil, obwohl, das, the connectors, the verb goes to the end. Want to sound more fluent? Try mixing the three types. Ich war müde, aber ich ging spazieren. Trotzdem habe ich Spaß gehabt, obwohl es geregnet hat. Okay? As you can see, we use three of them in one sentence. And here's a trick. If you mix them up, you sound more fluent. So conclusion. Congratulations on completing 6th day. In today's video, we have just went through the Konjunktionen and Satzverben. In tomorrow's video, we are going to talk about Nominalisierung. Okay? So see you in tomorrow's video. Till then, take care. Bye-bye. Hey guys, and welcome to the day 7 or the final day of our first week. And in today's video, we are going to talk about Nominalisierung. So let's see what we are going to cover in today's lesson. We will talk about what is Nominalisierung, then why use Nominalisierung, how to nominalize verbs, how to nominalize adjectives, and finally Nominalisierung in action. So first let's talk about what is that Nominalisierung. Nominalisierung is when we take a verb or an adjective and turn it into a noun. For example, ich lerne Deutsch becomes das Lernen der deutschen Sprache. Okay, that sounds way formal. See what happened? We took the verb lernen and turned into a noun, das Lernen. You will see this all the time in official letters, news articles, and formal writing. Now let's talk about the next point. Why use Nominalisierung? Now, why is this so important? It makes your sentence more formal and professional. It helps you avoid repetition. And it's great for writing, especially when you write a Forumsbeitrag or a formal email. And always remember, examiners love it when you use Nominalisierung in the right place. So now let's learn how to nominalize verbs. There are two main ways to nominalize verbs. Number one, just turn the infinitive into a noun with das. For example, lernen to das lernen, diskutieren to das diskutieren, spielen to das spielen. And the second way is use a noun form of the verb which often already exists. For example, diskutieren, die Diskussion, entscheiden, die Entscheidung, helfen, die Hilfe. You usually follow these nouns with genitive or a preposition. Example, das Lernen der Grammatik fällt mir schwer. Das Lernen der Grammatik fällt mir schwer. So as you can see, die Grammatik we turned into der Grammatik. So we use the genitive form. Then we have the next example. Die Diskussion über das Thema war spannend. Die Diskussion über das Thema war spannend. So über das Thema. Here we use the preposition. Now let's learn how to nominalize adjectives. Now what about adjectives? Same thing. We can turn them into nouns too. And here are a few common examples. Freundlich turned into die Freundlichkeit. Die Freundlichkeit. Wichtig is turned into die Wichtigkeit. Kreativ turned into die Kreativität. Die Kreativität. And here are some example sentences. Die Freundlichkeit des Lehrers war beeindruckend. Die Freundlichkeit des Lehrers war beeindruckend. The teacher's friendliness was impressive. Now let's go through a few you must learn for B1. So, from verbs to nouns. Used often in formal writing, emails, exams, reports. Usually formed with ung or an or articles, they are the das. So on the left side we have the verbs, in the middle we have the Nominalisierung, and on the very right side we have the examples. Okay, so the first one is anmelden. You can nominalize it to die Anmeldung. So die Anmeldung für den Kurs ist online. Okay, then we have arbeiten. Die Arbeit. Die Arbeit macht mir Spaß. Entscheiden. Die Entscheidung. Die Entscheidung war nicht einfach. Bewerben. Die Bewerbung. Ich habe eine Bewerbung geschickt. Helfen. Die Hilfe. Vielen Dank für Ihre Hilfe. Informieren. Die Information. Ich brauche mehr Information. Sprechen. Das Gespräch. Das Gespräch mit dem Chef war nett. Untersuchen. Die Untersuchung. Die Untersuchung war erfolgreich. Teilnehmen. Die Teilnahme. Die Teilnahme ist kostenlos. Zahlen. Die Zahlung. Die Zahlung ist schon erfolgt. So as you can see, sometimes we ended with ung or sometimes we ended with, let's say, Arbeit without the an or without the or let's say Information, okay? Informieren turns into Information or teilnehmen turns into Teilnahme, okay? So these are some endings and these are some examples. Now let's nominalize some adjectives, okay? From adjectives to noun. Common with das plus adjective stem plus e, okay? This is mostly used to describe qualities or concepts, okay? On the left side we have the adjective, in the middle we have the Nominalisierung, on the right side we have the example. So wichtig, the first one is wichtig, and Nominalisierung für wichtig ist das Wichtige. Ich habe das Wichtige zuerst gemacht. Ich habe das Wichtige zuerst gemacht. Möglich, das Mögliche. Wir tun das Mögliche. Neu, das Neue. Ich möchte das Neue ausprobieren. Notwendig, das Notwendige. Wir besorgen nur das Notwendige. Interessant, interessant. Das Interessante ist, wie schnell er lernt. Schwierig, das Schwierige. Das Schwierige ist der Anfang. Then we have schön, schön. Das Schöne. Das Schöne an Deutschland ist die Natur. Gut, das Gute. Das Gute ist, dass es bald vorbei ist. Das Gute ist, dass es bald vorbei ist. Then we have bekannt, das Bekannte. Ich habe das Bekannte gewählt. Ich habe das Bekannte gewählt. Then we have teuer, das Teure. Wir kaufen nicht das Teure. So again you can find the document down below in the resources, okay? Now let's cover the point Nominalisierung in action. Let's look at a transformation example. Basic version. Wenn man zu spät kommt, muss man sich entschuldigen. Wenn man zu spät kommt, muss man sich entschuldigen. Now let's use Nominalisierung. Das zu spät kommen erfordert eine Entschuldigung. Das zu spät kommen erfordert eine Entschuldigung. I know it can sound tricky, but as you can see, it sounds way professional. Doesn't that sound much more formal and polished? This is the kind of sentence structure you want to use in B1 writing exam. So here's a quick recap for today's lesson. Nominalisierung helps you sound more formal and professional. You can do it with verbs and adjectives. It's perfect for your B1 writing exam. So conclusion, congratulations on completing 7 day, and with today's lesson, you have just successfully completed first week. What next? So as you can see from the agenda of our course, we have successfully completed the week number 1, and it was about the B1 grammar mastery. So throughout the whole week number 1, we focused on mastering some B1 level grammar. And if you can master all the grammars I have showed in this first week, then you can tackle almost every task at B1 level. In week number 2, we will focus on some everyday situations and vocabs. You will learn how to talk about your daily life, job, school, health, travel, housing using authentic phrases you will actually use in Germany. So that means from tomorrow's lesson or from second week, we will focus on learning everyday situations phrases. And the week number 2 will be more practical than the theory. As I already mentioned, I don't just want you to pass the B1 exam, I also want you to speak German in Germany. So the goal of the entire week number 2 will be how to speak confidently and which phrases to use in daily situations. So see you tomorrow in the second week. Until then, take care. Bye bye. Hey guys, and welcome to the 8th day of week number 2. That means from today's video, we are going to start our second week. And before we start with our today's lesson, let's see which lessons we are going to cover through this entire week. Week number 2, everyday situations and vocabs. So on the first day of second week, that means in today's video, we are going to talk about work, school and daily routine. That means today in this video, we are going to learn some phrases related to work, school and daily routine. Then in tomorrow's video, we are going to talk about at the doctor or pharmacy, symptoms and advice. Then on the 10th day, we are going to talk about living in Germany, housing, rules and roommates. And after that, we are going to talk about appointments and bureaucracy, like how to communicate and which phrases to use at Bank, Bürgeramt and Arzt. Then we are going to talk about traveling, delays, direction and tickets. So in that video, we are going to learn vocabs and phrases related to traveling. And then we are going to talk about media, internet, social life and technology. And finally, on the last day of the week, we are going to talk about Umwelt Konsum, discussing about environment. Okay. So now let's start with our today's lesson. And it will be talking about work, school and daily routine. And here's what we are going to cover. Describing your work or school life in detail, talking about daily routine with time expressions, using reflexive verbs and modal verbs in context, and finally expressing opinions or preferences. Now let's start with the first point of our video, which is describing your work or school life. When you speak at B1 level, it's not enough to just say I work or I study. Now you can give more details. What exactly do you do? Where? How often? Use verbs like arbeiten, to work, studieren, to study, lernen, to learn, besuchen, to attend, and sich vorbereiten, to prepare. For example, ich arbeite als Verkäufer in einem Supermarkt. Ich arbeite als Verkäufer in einem Supermarkt. I work as a sales assistant in a supermarket. Or let's say, ich studiere Maschinenbau an der Universität. Ich studiere Maschinenbau an der Universität. That means I study mechanical engineering at the university. Or here is another example. Ich besuche eine Sprachschule. Ich besuche eine Sprachschule. That means I attended language school. Also, don't forget to include what you enjoy or don't enjoy about it. Now let's cover the next point, which is talking about your daily routine. Next, let's describe your daily schedule in order. Try to use sequence words like zuerst, danach, dann, schließlich. So zuerst means first, danach means after that, dann means then, and finally schließlich means finally. Also try to use time expressions. For example, 7 Uhr, at 7 o'clock, morgens, in the morning, jeden Tag, every day, zweimal pro Woche, twice a week. Here is an example using all the sequences and time expressions. Let's see it. Zuerst frühstücke ich, danach fahre ich zur Arbeit. Ich arbeite 3-mal pro Woche. As you can see, we already mentioned the sequences here and then the time expression. Now let's cover another point, using reflexive verbs and modal verbs in context. At B1, we also need to start using reflexive verbs and modal verbs naturally in our daily routine. Reflexive verbs like sich beeilen, to hurry, sich vorbereiten, to prepare, and sich konzentrieren, to concentrate. And modal verbs like müssen, können, sollen, wollen. And you know the meaning, right? Müssen means must, können can, sollen should, and wollen want. So here's an example. Ich muss mich morgens beeilen, weil mein Bus 7:15 Uhr fährt. Ich muss mich morgens beeilen, weil mein Bus 7:15 Uhr fährt. That means I have to hurry in the morning because my bus leaves at 7:15. And you can also see the uses of modal verbs and subordinate clauses. Here is another example. Ich will mich heute auf die Prüfung vorbereiten. Ich will mich heute auf die Prüfung vorbereiten. So this is also a reflexive verb. Sich vorbereiten. So ich will mich vorbereiten. I want to prepare for the exam today. Now let's cover the next point, which is expressing opinions or preferences. Finally, it's time to give your opinion, just like a real German speaker. Try to use phrases like ich finde or meiner Meinung nach or es gefällt mir wenn. Okay, ich finde means I find, or meiner Meinung nach means in my opinion. Okay, or es gefällt mir wenn, that means I like it when. Now let's see some example. Ich finde meinen Job interessant, aber manchmal stressig. Ich finde meinen Job interessant, aber manchmal stressig. So as you can see, I find, you are giving an opinion. I find my job interesting, but sometimes stressful. So you are giving your opinion that you find your job interesting, but sometimes it's stressful.
Here's another example. Es gefällt mir, wenn ich mit Kollegen im Team arbeiten kann. Es gefällt mir, wenn ich mit Kollegen im Team arbeiten kann. I like it when I can work in a team with colleagues. So in this case, you are giving your preference, okay? You like when you work with your colleagues in the team. So that's how you express your opinion, or let's say your preferences. So conclusion, congratulations on completing 8 day. In today's video, we have learned how to communicate or which phrases to use in your day-to-day life, or let's say how to express your opinion or preferences. In tomorrow's video, we are going to talk about how to communicate with the pharmacist, with the doctor, and so on, and also how to express your symptoms. So see you in tomorrow's video. Till then, take care. Bye bye. Hey guys, and welcome to the day number 9 of our second week. In today's video, we're going to learn how to communicate at the doctor, pharmacy, and how to express your symptoms or take advice. Okay, so here's what we are going to cover. So in this video, we are going to learn describing symptoms with more details and nuance, expressing how long and how intense symptoms are, then understanding and reacting to medical instructions, pharmacy situations, and finally talking about past and current treatment. So let's start with the first point of this video, which is describing symptoms clearly. In German, it's not enough to say ich bin krank, I'm sick. It's A1 level, okay? You can't just say ich bin krank when you are learning at B1. You should be more specific. Just like this. Ich habe seit 3 Tagen starke Kopfschmerzen. Ich habe seit 3 Tagen starke Kopfschmerzen. That means I have had strong headaches for last 3 days. Or let's say mein Bauch tut weh, besonders nach dem Essen. Mein Bauch tut weh, besonders nach dem Essen. My stomach hurts, especially after eating. As you can see, in this level, you should also know how to express the timing of the symptoms, okay? For example, I've just said, mein Bauch tut weh, besonders nach dem Essen. Especially after eating. Now let's go through another example. Ich habe Husten und Halsschmerzen. Ich habe Husten und Halsschmerzen. I have a cough and sore throat. So as you can see, in this level, you're not just saying, ich bin krank. You are specifying the symptoms you have. We often use seit plus the time expression, since or for, like since or for how long you are having the symptom, or Körperteil plus tut weh. That means basically the body part plus where does it hurt. Now let's learn saying how long and how strong. This is where B1 grammar comes in. You can now describe how symptoms change over time or how intense they are. Let's go through some examples. Die Schmerzen sind morgens leicht, aber abends schlimmer. Die Schmerzen sind morgens leicht, aber abends schlimmer. The pain is mild in the morning, but worse in the evening. Or here we have another example. Seit letzter Woche fühle ich mich sehr erschöpft. Seit letzter Woche fühle ich mich sehr erschöpft. I've been feeling very exhausted since last week. So as you can see, you should know how to describe the intensity of the pain you have. For example, we expressed die Schmerzen sind morgens leicht. It's mild in the morning, but in the evening, it's schlimmer. That means it's worse. So that means basically you are using more detail and that shows real progress. Now let's learn how to understand medical instructions. Doctors and pharmacists often use set phrases. Here are some example instructions you might hear. Nehmen Sie diese Tablette 3-mal täglich nach dem Essen. Nehmen Sie diese Tabletten 3-mal täglich nach dem Essen. Take these tablets 3 times daily after meals. Or let's say, trinken Sie viel Wasser und ruhen Sie sich aus. Trinken Sie viel Wasser und ruhen Sie sich aus. That means drink lots of water and get some rest. Or let's say, wenn es nicht besser wird, kommen Sie bitte zur Kontrolle. Wenn es nicht besser wird, kommen Sie bitte zur Kontrolle. That means if it doesn't get better, please come back for a checkup. Okay? And now let's learn how you can answer them. Alles klar, danke. That's the basic one you can say. Alles klar, danke. Alright, thank you. Or let's say, brauche ich ein Rezept dafür? Brauche ich ein Rezept dafür? That means basically, do I need prescription for that? Now let's cover the next point, which is at the pharmacy. Asking the right way. So here are some great phrases you can use. Ich suche etwas gegen Halsschmerzen. Ich suche etwas gegen Halsschmerzen. That means I'm looking for something for a sore throat. In this case, you can also exchange Halsschmerzen with any other pain you have. For example, I could say, ich suche etwas gegen Kopfschmerzen. Ich suche etwas gegen Kopfschmerzen. That means I'm looking for something for headache, or let's say, ich suche etwas gegen Bauchschmerzen. I'm looking for something for stomach pain, okay? Ich vertrage kein Penicillin. Ich vertrage kein Penicillin. That's a common one. That means I'm allergic to penicillin, okay? Ich vertrage kein Penicillin. Then we have, gibt es etwas ohne Nebenwirkungen? Gibt es etwas ohne Nebenwirkungen? That means, is there something without the side effects? So Nebenwirkungen means side effects. These phrases help you explain your needs and any restrictions clearly. Now let's cover the next point of this video, which is talking about past or ongoing treatment. B1 learners should also express things like, ich war schon beim Arzt, aber die Medikamente haben nicht geholfen. Ich war schon beim Arzt, aber die Medikamente haben nicht geholfen. That means I already saw a doctor, but the medicine didn't help. Let's see another example. Ich habe früher ähnliche Beschwerden gehabt. Ich habe früher ähnliche Beschwerden gehabt. That means I had similar issues in the past. And remember, don't panic if you don't understand every word a doctor says. Just focus on keywords like Schmerzen, Fieber, Medikamente, Rezept, Nebenwirkungen. So, conclusion. Congratulations on completing 9 days. In today's video, we have learned how to communicate or which phrases should you use when you visit a doctor or pharmacist. In tomorrow's video, we are going to learn vocabularies and phrases related to living in Germany, like housing, renting, and so on. So, see you in tomorrow's video. Till then, take care. Bye-bye. Hey guys, and welcome to the day number 10 of second week. In today's video, we are going to talk about living in Germany, housing, rules, and roommates. So here's what we are going to cover. Types of housing in Germany, important rental vocabulary and rules, talking about roommates, Mitbewohner, and German culture, Ordnung muss sein. Let's start with the first point of this video, which is types of housing in Germany. First, let's talk about the different places you might live. In Germany, many students or young professionals lives in a WG, or which means Wohngemeinschaft, a shared apartment, okay? Wohngemeinschaft, a shared apartment, where you have your own room but share the kitchen and bathroom with others. Another common option is a Mietwohnung or a rented apartment. This can be small studios or larger family apartments. If you are a student, you might also live in a Studentenwohnheim, a student dormitory. Here are some example sentences you can use to express your housing situation, okay? At first we have, ich wohne in einer WG mit 2 Mitbewohnern. Ich wohne in einer WG mit 2 Mitbewohnern. So that basically means I live in a shared apartment with 2 roommates. And then we have, ich habe eine kleine Wohnung im 3. Stock. Ich habe eine kleine Wohnung im 3. Stock. So that means basically I have a small apartment on 3rd floor. So the red marked words you can exchange with your own terms, okay? For example, I could say, ich habe eine große Wohnung im Erdgeschoss. That means I have a big house but in 1st floor. Now let's cover the next point, which is rental vocabulary and important rules. Let's go over some must-know vocabulary and rules when renting in Germany. Mietvertrag. That's the important one. Mietvertrag, rental contract. Kaution. Kaution means deposit, usually for 2 to 3 months of the rent. Then we have Nebenkosten. Extra costs like heating, water, trash, etc. And one thing to notice, most buildings have clear house rules called Hausordnung. This might say, keine laute Musik nach 22 Uhr. That means no loud music after 10 p.m. Or Haustiere sind nicht erlaubt. Haustiere sind nicht erlaubt, pets are not allowed. So this one depends on building to building. You have to just look at your own building's Hausordnung. And here's the thing, punctual rent payment is very important. As you already know, Germans take contracts and rules seriously. Now let's cover the next point, which is living with roommates, Mitbewohner. Mitbewohner is basically the German translation for roommate. So if you're living in a WG or Wohngemeinschaft, you will share some responsibilities. That includes Aufräumen, cleaning up, Putzen, cleaning, Teilen, sharing, sich absprechen, coordinating. A common system is to make a Putzplan, a cleaning schedule, like who should when clean the apartment or clean the kitchen and so on. Here is an example. Wir teilen uns die Küche und putzen jede Woche im Wechsel. Wir teilen uns die Küche und putzen jede Woche im Wechsel. We share the kitchen and clean on a rotating schedule. Now let's cover the last point of this video, which is German culture. Ordnung muss sein. There is a popular saying in Germany, Ordnung muss sein. It means basically, there must be order. This is part of daily life. Germans like clear rules, clean spaces, and respectful behavior. And here are a few cultural habits. Pünktlichkeit, always be on time. Mülltrennung, trash must be sorted, like according to the paper, plastic, bio and the rest. Then quiet hours, usually after 10 p.m. and all day on Sundays. Conclusion, congratulations on completing 10 day. In today's video, we have just learned the vocabularies and phrases related to the housing, renting and so on. And in tomorrow's video, we are going to talk about appointments and bureaucracy. So see you in tomorrow's video. Till then, take care. Bye bye. Hey guys, and welcome to the 11th day of second week. In today's video, we are going to talk about appointments and bureaucracy, Bank, Bürgeramt and Arzt. So here is what we are going to cover. How to book and confirm appointments in Germany, common bureaucratic places and their functions, useful phrases and questions you need to know, important documents to bring, and finally, German bureaucracy tips and cultural norms. Now let's start with the first point of our video, which is how to book or confirm an appointment. In Germany, almost everything works with a termin, an appointment. You will need to book, cancel or sometimes reschedule appointments. And here are three phrases you will hear a lot. Ich möchte einen Termin vereinbaren. Ich möchte einen Termin vereinbaren. That's the basic one you will hear all the time. I would like to make an appointment. Then, ich muss den Termin leider absagen. Ich muss den Termin leider absagen. Unfortunately, I have to cancel the appointment. And könnten wir den Termin verschieben? Könnten wir den Termin verschieben? That means basically, could we reschedule the appointment? You can say this on the phone or write it in an email. Now let's cover the point. Why do you need appointments? Let's look at three common places. And these are Bürgeramt, the citizen's office. And you go here to register your address, or known as Anmeldung in German, then change address or get your Meldebescheinigung or renew your ID, okay? You will get the Meldebescheinigung when you register yourself in Germany. Then the next one is obvious, the bank. Want to open a bank account or change your PIN? You will often need an appointment. And finally, Arzt, the doctor. Whether it's general doctor or specialist, always book first even for small things. Now let's cover the next point, which is useful questions you should know. Here are some must-know phrases. Wann ist der nächste freie Termin? Wann ist der nächste freie Termin? That means, when is the next available appointment? Then we have, welche Unterlagen muss ich mitbringen? Welche Unterlagen muss ich mitbringen? That means, what documents should I bring? So, Unterlagen means documents. Then we have, wie lange dauert das ungefähr? Wie lange dauert das ungefähr? So ungefähr means approximately. Use these phrases to make your life easier and more professional. Now let's go through some phrases you must learn at B1 level. So here we have the list of Redemittel, appointments and bureaucracy. So let's start with the first category, which is making and changing appointments. Ich möchte einen Termin vereinbaren. Ich möchte einen Termin vereinbaren. That's the basic one. We have already learned it. Then we have, haben Sie nächste Woche einen Termin frei? Haben Sie nächste Woche noch einen Termin frei? Do you have any available appointments on the next week? Then we have, ich würde den Termin gerne verschieben. Ich würde gerne den Termin verschieben. That means I would like to reschedule my appointment. Next we have, könnte ich den Termin auf Donnerstag verlegen? Könnte ich den Termin auf Donnerstag verlegen? That means could we reschedule the appointment on Thursday? Next we have, leider kann ich den Termin nicht wahrnehmen. Leider kann ich den Termin nicht wahrnehmen. Unfortunately, I can't attend the appointment. Next phrase we have, gibt es einen früheren oder späteren Termin? That means, can you give an appointment earlier or later? So früher means earlier and später means later. Then we have the next category at the bank. Ich möchte ein Konto eröffnen. Ich möchte ein Konto eröffnen. That means I want to open an account. Next we have, welche Unterlagen brauche ich dafür? Welche Unterlagen brauche ich dafür? What documents or which documents do I need for that? Gibt es Gebühren für das Konto? Is there any extra charges for the account? So Gebühren means charges. Then we have, ich habe meine Karte verloren. Was soll ich tun? Ich habe meine Karte verloren. I have lost my card. What should I do now? Was soll ich tun? Next we have, ich möchte Bargeld abheben oder einzahlen. Ich möchte Bargeld abheben oder einzahlen. Abheben means I want to withdraw money, and einzahlen means I want to deposit money, okay? Then we have, können Sie mir den Kontostand mitteilen? Können Sie mir den Kontostand mitteilen? That means, can you share the account balance please? Our next category is at the Bürgeramt oder Rathaus. Ich möchte mich anmelden, oder ich möchte mich abmelden, oder ich möchte mich ummelden. So anmelden, to register yourself. Abmelden to remove your registration, and ummelden means to change your registration to another city or something. Okay? Ich brauche eine Meldebescheinigung. Ich brauche eine Meldebescheinigung. Was muss ich mitbringen? Was muss ich mitbringen? Wie lange dauert die Bearbeitung? Wie lange dauert die Bearbeitung? Ich habe einen Ausweis verloren. Ich habe meinen Ausweis verloren. Then we have, wo kann ich einen neuen beantragen? Wo kann ich einen neuen beantragen? So these are the phrases you can use when you go to the Rathaus or Bürgeramt. Okay? Next we have at the doctor or Arzttermin. These are the phrases you can use when you go to the doctor. Okay? Ich habe starke Kopfschmerzen. Ich habe starke Kopfschmerzen or Bauchschmerzen. Okay? Then we have ich fühle mich nicht gut. Ich fühle mich nicht gut or ich bin krank. Then we have ich hätte gerne einen Termin beim Arzt. Ich hätte gerne einen Termin beim Arzt. Then we have muss ich ein Rezept haben. Muss ich ein Rezept haben. Then the next phrase we have wie lange bin ich arbeitsunfähig. Wie lange bin ich arbeitsunfähig? Then we have können Sie mir etwas gegen die Schmerzen geben. Können Sie mir etwas gegen die Schmerzen geben. Okay? The next category we have the general bureaucratic phrases. Formal or formal in English. Okay? Ich hätte eine Frage zu meinen Unterlagen. Ich hätte eine Frage zu meinen Unterlagen. Ich habe ein Schreiben von Ihnen bekommen. Ich habe ein Schreiben von Ihnen bekommen. Wo finde ich das Formular dafür? Wo finde ich das Formular dafür? Ich bin nicht sicher, ob ich alles richtig ausgefüllt habe. Ich bin nicht sicher, ob ich alles richtig ausgefüllt habe. The next phrase we have, Entschuldigung, könnten Sie das bitte noch einmal erklären? Entschuldigung, könnten Sie das bitte noch einmal erklären? Then we have, vielen Dank für Ihre Hilfe. Vielen Dank für Ihre Hilfe. So here are some extra or useful questions. So the first question is, was genau muss ich tun? Was genau muss ich tun? An wen kann ich mich wenden? An wen kann ich mich wenden? Wo bekomme ich weitere Informationen? Wie lange dauert das ungefähr? Wie lange dauert das ungefähr? Gibt es eine Frist? Gibt es eine Frist? Okay? So these are some useful phrases you can use at the Bürgeramt, Bank, Arts, and so on. And you can find the document down below in the resources. Now let's cover the next point of this video, which is important documents you need. Try to always bring the right paperwork. Here is short checklist depending on where you go. For Bürgeramt, Passport or ID, rental contract or Wohnungsgeberbestätigung. For Bank, your ID, proof of address, maybe a work contract. Then for doctor, insurance card, the Krankenversicherungskarte. Now let's cover the next point, which is tips for dealing with German bureaucracy. Let me give you some survival tips. Be on time. Germans take punctuality seriously. Bring all the required documents. They will not accept missing papers. Use formal language. Always use Sie to be polite, okay? Then prepare your questions in advance. Even write them down in German. So conclusion, congratulations on completing 11th day. In today's video we have learned which phrases to use at bureaucracy like Bürgeramt, Rathaus, Bank or a doctor's office, and how to set appointments, cancel appointments, even reschedule appointments. In tomorrow's video we are going to learn vocabs and phrases related to travel. Okay, so see you in tomorrow's video. Till then, take care. Bye bye. Hey guys, and welcome to the day 12 of second week. In today's video we are going to talk about traveling, delays, directions and tickets. So here's what we are going to cover: understanding and buying tickets, asking for and giving directions, handling travel delays and cancellations, announcing travel plans or problems, and finally understanding announcements and signs. Now let's start with the first point of this video, which is understanding and buying tickets. In Germany, ticket machines and counters can be a little intimidating at first, but no worries. You can say or use phrases like Ich hätte gerne eine Fahrkarte nach Berlin. Ich hätte gerne eine Fahrkarte nach Berlin. That means I would like a ticket to Berlin. Or wie viel kostet ein Tagesticket? Wie viel kostet ein Tagesticket? How much is a day pass? Then the next phrase, wo entwerte ich das Ticket? Wo entwerte ich das Ticket? Where do I validate the ticket? Always remember, in many cities you have to validate your paper ticket before boarding using a little blue or yellow machine called an Entwerter. Now let's cover the next point, which is asking for directions like a local. If you are lost, these phrases are your best friends. Wie komme ich zum Bahnhof? Wie komme ich zum Bahnhof? How do I get to the train station? Or ist es weit von hier? Ist es weit von hier? Is it far from here? Or phrases like gehen Sie geradeaus und dann links. Gehen Sie geradeaus und dann links. Go straight ahead and then left. And here's a tip. Germans often give precise direction, so listen for words like rechts, links, Ampel, etc. So rechts means right, links means left, Ampel means traffic light, and Kreuzung means intersection. Now let's cover the next point, which is dealing with delays and problems. Trains in Germany are great, but sometimes late. You might hear, der Zug hat Verspätung. Der Zug hat Verspätung. That means the train is delayed. Or der Anschlusszug fällt aus. Der Anschlusszug fällt aus. That means the connecting train is cancelled. Or wann fährt der nächste Zug? Wann fährt der nächste Zug? When does the next train leave? Don't panic, just ask the staff member or check the DB Navigator app, which most local use. DB Navigator app is a lifesaver. I always check the app before I step out from my house. So try to use the app in your day-to-day life. Now let's cover the next point, which is making travel plans or excuses. Want to sound natural when talking about your travel plans? Use phrases like Ich fahre morgen nach München. Ich fahre morgen nach München. That means I'm going to Munich tomorrow. Or Ich komme um 17 Uhr an. Ich komme um 17 Uhr an. That means I will arrive at 5 p.m. Or es gab eine Verspätung, deshalb komme ich später. Es gab eine Verspätung, deshalb komme ich später. There was a delay, that's why I'm coming late. You will often need these phrases in conversations with friends, teachers, or your boss. Now let's cover the next point, which is understanding announcements and signs. German train station use specific vocabulary you should know. Abfahrt, departure, Ankunft, arrival, Verspätung, delay, and gleich means platform. Okay? Use phrases like Der Zug nach Frankfurt fährt heute von gleich 7. Der Zug nach Frankfurt fährt heute von gleich 7. The train to Frankfurt leaves from platform 7 today. Now let's learn some more travel related phrases. So here are some useful phrases for traveling at B1 level. So the first category is buying tickets and transportation. The first phrase is Ich hätte gern ein Ticket nach Berlin. Ich hätte gern ein Ticket nach Berlin. The next one is Gibt es eine Ermäßigung für Studenten? Gibt es eine Ermäßigung für Studenten? That means is there any offer for the students? The next one is Muss ich umsteigen? Muss ich umsteigen? Einsteigen means to step into the train, and aussteigen means to step out, and umsteigen means to change the train. Okay? Then we have Wann fährt der nächste Zug nach Frankfurt? Wann fährt der nächste Zug nach Frankfurt? The next one, wie lange dauert die Fahrt? Wie lange dauert die Fahrt? Then we have, ist das ein Direktflug? Eine Direktverbindung? Ist das ein Direktflug? Oder eine Direktverbindung? The next category we have, dealing with delays and problems. Der Zug hat Verspätung. Der Zug hat Verspätung. Mein Flug wurde gestrichen. Mein Flug wurde gestrichen. Was kann ich in diesem Fall tun? Was kann ich in diesem Fall tun? Ich habe meinen Anschluss verpasst. Ich habe meinen Anschluss verpasst. Gibt es eine Entschädigung für die Verspätung? Gibt es eine Entschädigung für die Verspätung? Then we have, wo kann ich mich beschweren? Wo kann ich mich beschweren? The next category is asking for or giving directions. Okay? Entschuldigung, wie komme ich zum Bahnhof? Entschuldigung, wie komme ich zum Bahnhof? Ist es weit von hier? Ist es weit von hier? Gehen Sie geradeaus und dann links. Gehen Sie geradeaus und dann links. Die U-Bahn-Station ist gleich um die Ecke. Die U-Bahn-Station ist gleich um die Ecke. Es ist nur 5 Minuten zu Fuß. Es ist nur 5 Minuten zu Fuß. Ich bin nicht von hier, tut mir leid. Ich bin nicht von hier, tut mir leid. The next category we have at the hotel. Ich habe ein Zimmer reserviert auf den Namen Müller. Ich habe ein Zimmer reserviert auf den Namen Müller. Or you can just replace the name Müller with your name, okay? Your last name. Then we have, gibt es WLAN im Zimmer? Gibt es WLAN im Zimmer? Könnte ich bitte ein ruhiges Zimmer bekommen? Könnte ich bitte ein ruhiges Zimmer bekommen? Ab wann ist das Frühstück? Ab wann ist das Frühstück? Ich möchte auschecken. Ich möchte auschecken. Gibt es eine Möglichkeit, mein Gepäck zu lassen? Gibt es eine Möglichkeit, mein Gepäck zu lassen? The next category is at the airport or train station. Wo ist der Check-in-Schalter? Wo ist der Check-in-Schalter? Ich habe mein Gepäck verloren. Ich habe mein Gepäck verloren. Wie viel Gepäck darf ich mitnehmen? Wie viel Gepäck darf ich mitnehmen? Muss ich mein Ticket entwerten? Muss ich mein Ticket entwerten? Wann kommt der Zug an? Wann kommt der Zug an? Wo ist gleich 5? Wo ist gleich 5? The next category we have other useful travel phrases, okay? Ich bin das erste Mal hier. Ich bin das erste Mal hier. Können Sie mir eine Karte geben? Können Sie mir eine Karte geben? Was können Sie in der Stadt empfehlen? Was können Sie in der Stadt empfehlen? Gibt es hier in der Nähe ein gutes Restaurant? Gibt es hier in der Nähe ein gutes Restaurant? Ich habe meine Buchung nicht dabei. Ich habe meine Buchung nicht dabei. Können Sie das langsamer sagen? Können Sie bitte das langsamer sagen? And finally, we have some bonus ready-metal for clarification, okay? Könnten Sie das bitte wiederholen? Könnten Sie bitte das wiederholen? Ich habe das nicht ganz verstanden. Ich habe das nicht ganz verstanden. Meinen Sie, then your question, okay? For example, meinen Sie, dass ich zum Bahnhof ein Taxi nehmen soll? So, you can just ask your question after meinen Sie. Then you have, könnten Sie mir das aufschreiben? Könnten Sie mir das bitte aufschreiben? If you are going to travel anywhere in Germany, try to use these phrases. As usual, you can find the document down below in the resources. So, conclusion. Congratulations on completing 12th day. In today's video, we have just learned some vocabularies and phrases related to traveling. In tomorrow's video, we are going to learn phrases related to media, internet, and social life. So, see you in tomorrow's video. Till then, take care. Bye-bye. Hey guys, and welcome to the day 13 of second week. In today's video, we are going to talk about media, internet, social life, and technology. Okay, so here's what we are going to cover. Talking about media habits, discussing internet and social media uses, advantages and disadvantages of technology, describing social activities online and offline, and finally talking about technology, problems and solutions. Now let's start with the first point of this video, which is talking about media habits. First up, how often do you watch TV? Do you read the news or listen to podcasts? At B1 level, you should be able to describe your media routine using the present tense and some time expressions. Here are some examples. Ich schaue jeden Abend Nachrichten. Ich schaue jeden Abend Nachrichten. I watch the news every evening. Or let's say, ich höre oft Podcasts auf dem Weg zur Arbeit. Ich höre oft Podcasts auf dem Weg zur Arbeit. That means I often listen to podcasts on the way to work. You can also say, ich lese Nachrichten online, or let's say, ich sehe gerne Serien auf Netflix. Now let's cover the next point, which is discussing internet and social media uses. Next, how do you use the internet or social media? B1 learners should be able to say what platforms they use and why. For example, ich benutze Instagram, um mit meinen Freunden in Kontakt zu bleiben. Ich benutze Instagram, um mit meinen Freunden in Kontakt zu bleiben. Or let's say, ich lerne Deutsch mit YouTube-Videos. Ich lerne Deutsch mit YouTube-Videos. Or let's say, ich recherchiere oft online für die Uni. Ich recherchiere oft online für die Uni. Don't forget to use verbs like nutzen, benutzen, recherchieren or chillen, informal. Now let's talk about the next point of this video, which is talking about pros and cons of technology. This is where you can use cool B1 connectors like einerseits and then andererseits. On one hand, on the another hand. Or let's say, zwar, aber. It's true that, but. Trotzdem, nevertheless. Let's see some examples. Einerseits ist mein Handy sehr praktisch, andererseits bin ich oft abgelenkt. That means basically on one hand, my smartphone is practical, but on the other hand, it distracts me. On next example, zwar ist Social Media nützlich, aber es kann auch stressig sein. That sounds way more advanced, right? Now let's cover the next point, which is describing social activities, online and offline. Let's talk social life. B1 learners should be able to describe how they meet people, hang out with friends or chat online. Here are some examples. Ich treffe mich am Wochenende mit Freunden im Park. Ich treffe mich am Wochenende mit Freunden im Park. Or let's say, wir machen oft Videoanrufe, weil wir weit weg wohnen. Wir machen oft Videoanrufe, weil wir weit weg wohnen. Or you could just say, ich schreibe jeden Tag mit meiner Familie auf WhatsApp. Ich schreibe jeden Tag mit meiner Familie auf WhatsApp. You are now not just describing your life, you are connecting it to real world situations. Now let's cover the next point, which is talking about tech problems and solutions. And finally, let's face it, technology doesn't always work. B1 learners should be able to describe common tech issues and what they did about it. Here are some useful vocabs. Das WLAN funktioniert nicht. Das WLAN funktioniert nicht. Wi-Fi is not working. Or mein Akku war leer. Mein Akku war leer. My battery was dead. So leer means basically dead or empty. Okay. Then we have Ich hatte kein Netz. Ich hatte kein Netz. Sometimes people also use ich hatte keinen Empfang. Ich hatte keinen Empfang. So Empfang or Netz means the same. The signal. I had no signal. Okay? Here are some sample sentences. Ich musste mein Handy neu starten. Ich musste mein Handy neu starten. Or ich habe den Router aus und wieder eingeschaltet. Ich habe den Router aus und wieder eingeschaltet. Like I just restarted the router, okay? Yes, even tech problems can help your grammar. Now let's learn some more tech and social related phrases. So as you can see, here are some social life and technology phrases at B1 level. So the first category is Internet and Technology. Ich surfe jeden Tag im Internet. That means I surf the Internet every day. Then we have the next phrase. Ich lade oft Dateien aus dem Internet herunter. Ich lade oft Dateien aus dem Internet herunter. I often download files from the Internet. Mein WLAN funktioniert nicht. Mein WLAN funktioniert nicht. My Wi-Fi is not working. Ich benutze mein Smartphone für fast alles. Ich benutze mein Smartphone für fast alles. That means I use my smartphone for almost everything. Technologie macht das Leben einfacher. Technologie macht das Leben einfacher. Technology makes life easier. Ich habe mein Passwort vergessen. Ich habe mein Passwort vergessen. I forgot my password. The next category we have Social Media and Digital Life. Ich bin auf Instagram und TikTok aktiv. Ich bin auf Instagram und TikTok aktiv. I'm active on Instagram and TikTok. Then we have ich teile gerne Fotos und Videos. Ich teile gerne Fotos und Videos. I like sharing photos and videos. Ich verbringe zu viel Zeit am Handy. Ich verbringe zu viel Zeit am Handy. I spend too much time on my phone. Then we have ich folge vielen Influencern. Ich folge vielen Influencern. That means I follow many influencers. Soziale Medien können auch stressig sein. Soziale Medien können auch stressig sein. That means social media can also be stressful. Next we have the media and news. So the first phrase is ich sehe mir gerne Nachrichten im Fernsehen an. Ich sehe mir gerne Nachrichten im Fernsehen an. I like watching the news on TV. Ich höre jeden Morgen Podcasts. Ich höre jeden Morgen Podcasts. I listen to podcasts every morning. Ich lese Nachrichten online. Ich lese Nachrichten online. I read the news online. Next we have ich bevorzuge Dokumentationen statt Serien. Ich bevorzuge Dokumentationen statt Serien. That means I prefer documentaries over series. So bevorzuge means I prefer, okay? Fake News sind ein großes Problem. Fake News sind ein großes Problem. Fake News is a big problem. Social Life and Communication. Wir haben eine WhatsApp-Gruppe. Wir haben eine WhatsApp-Gruppe. We have a WhatsApp group. Ich chatte oft mit meinen Freunden. Ich chatte oft mit meinen Freunden. I often chat with my friends. Ich telefoniere lieber als zu schreiben. Ich telefoniere lieber als zu schreiben. I prefer calling over texting. Okay? Lieber als means also I prefer. Then we have ich treffe meine Freunde regelmäßig. Ich treffe meine Freunde regelmäßig. That means I meet my friends regularly. Next we have wir machen einen Videoanruf. Wir machen einen Videoanruf. We are doing a video call. So as you can see, these are some useful phrases for social life and technologies. And as you know, you can find the document down below in the resources. So here's the quick recap for today's lesson. Talk about your media and internet habits. Use B1 level connectors to give opinions. Describe tech problems in daily life. Share your online and offline social experiences. So conclusion, congratulations on completing 13th day. In today's video, we have just learned how to use phrases for your internet, media or social life. In tomorrow's video, we'll learn how to discuss about the environment. Okay, so see you in tomorrow's video. Till then, take care. Bye bye. Hey guys, and welcome to the day 14th of second week. In today's video, we are going to talk about Umwelt Konsum, discussing environment and spending. So here's what we are going to cover. Talking about environmental problems, expressing opinions and giving solutions, describing personal habits, discussing shopping and consumption habit, and finally useful vocabulary and structures. So let's start with our first point of this video, which is talking about environmental problems. In Germany, people talk a lot about environmental issues. So it is a useful topic and it also comes up in exams and everyday conversations. You can say things like, Die Umweltverschmutzung ist ein großes Problem. Die Umweltverschmutzung ist ein großes Problem. Aber wir produzieren zu viel Müll, besonders Plastik. Wir produzieren zu viel Müll, besonders Plastik. Also useful, der Klimawandel, Climate Change. Der CO2-Ausstoß. Der CO2-Ausstoß means the CO2 emissions. Then der Verkehr, traffic. Big problem in cities. Use these words when you want to describe what's going wrong in the world. Now let's talk about expressing opinions and giving solutions. It's important to not only say what's wrong, but also give your opinion and ideas to improve things. This is useful for writing, speaking and special exams. So here are some simple and powerful sentence starters. The first one, ich finde, dass wir mehr recyceln sollten. Ich finde, dass wir mehr recyceln sollten. That means, I think we should recycle more. Next we have, meiner Meinung nach sollte man öfter das Fahrrad benutzen. Meiner Meinung nach sollte man öfter das Fahrrad benutzen. That means, in my opinion, people should use the bike more often. Next we have, man könnte weniger mit dem Auto fahren. Man könnte weniger mit dem Auto fahren. That means one should use car less. Try to always combine a problem plus solution in your sentences. Now let's cover the next point, which is describing personal habits. In exams and real life, you are often asked, what do you do for the environment? And here's how you can answer that. Ich benutze meistens eine Stofftasche im Supermarkt. Ich benutze meistens eine Stofftasche im Supermarkt. I mostly use a cloth bag at the supermarket. Or let's say, ich fahre oft mit öffentlichen Verkehrsmitteln. Ich fahre oft mit öffentlichen Verkehrsmitteln. That means, I often use public transport. Or let's say, ich kaufe regionale Produkte auf dem Markt. Ich kaufe regionale Produkte auf dem Markt. That means, I buy regional products at the market. These are not just nice to say. They are things Germans talk about a lot. Now let's talk about the next topic, which is talking about consumption and shopping. Let's now switch to the other half of the topic, consume, or how we spend money. Some useful expressions are, ich kaufe selten neue Kleidung. Ich kaufe selten neue Kleidung. I rarely buy new clothes. Or let's say, ich versuche bewusster einzukaufen. Ich versuche bewusster einzukaufen. That means I try to shop more consciously. Then we have, ich brauche das nicht wirklich. Ich brauche das nicht wirklich. That means I don't really need that. It is also common in Germany to talk about Minimalismus or minimalism or nachhaltiger Konsum. That means sustainable consumptions. Now let's talk about the next point, which is important vocabulary and connectors. Here are some essential words and sentence connectors for this topic. Verbs like recycle, to recycle, verzichten auf, to give up. For example, ich verzichte auf Plastiktüten. I give up on plastic bags. Or sparen, to save. Ich spare Energie. Ich spare Energie, okay? So, here are some connectors here. Weil, because, damit, so that, deshalb, therefore. Now let's use them in example sentences. Ich kaufe regionale Produkte, weil sie besser für die Umwelt sind. Ich kaufe regionale Produkte, weil sie besser für die Umwelt sind. I buy regional products because they are better for the environment. Now let's learn some more environment and spending related phrases. So here are some useful phrases for Umwelt und Konsum, okay? The first category is talking about the environment, Umwelt. Die Umwelt ist ein wichtiges Thema in der heutigen Zeit. Die Umwelt ist ein wichtiges Thema in der heutigen Zeit. Then we have, wir sollten mehr für den Umweltschutz tun. Wir sollten mehr für den Umweltschutz tun. Plastikmüll ist ein großes Problem. Plastikmüll ist ein großes Problem. Then we have, ich versuche weniger Müll zu produzieren. Ich versuche weniger Müll zu produzieren. Then we have, ich benutze Stofftaschen statt Plastiktüten. Ich benutze Stofftaschen statt Plastiktüten. Then we have, man sollte öfter mit dem Fahrrad fahren. Man sollte öfter mit dem Fahrrad fahren. Then we have, viele Menschen verschwenden zu viel Energie. Viele Menschen verschwenden zu viel Energie. Then we have, Recycling ist eine gute Lösung. Recycling ist eine gute Lösung. Then we have, ich finde, jeder kann einen Beitrag leisten. Ich finde, jeder kann einen Beitrag leisten. Then we have, wir müssen Verantwortung übernehmen. Wir müssen Verantwortung übernehmen. The next category is talking about consumption and shopping. Konsum. Heute konsumieren wir mehr als früher. Heute konsumieren wir mehr als früher. Ich überlege gut, bevor ich etwas kaufe. Ich überlege gut, bevor ich etwas kaufe. Man sollte keine unnötige Dinge kaufen. Man sollte keine unnötige Dinge kaufen. Ich achte auf Qualität, nicht nur auf den Preis. Ich achte auf Qualität, nicht nur auf den Preis. Online-Shopping ist praktisch, aber auch gefährlich. Online-Shopping ist praktisch, aber auch gefährlich. Viele Produkte sind billig, aber schlecht für die Umwelt. Viele Produkte sind billig, aber schlecht für die Umwelt. Ich versuche, regionale Produkte zu kaufen. Ich versuche, regionale Produkte zu kaufen. Sonderangebote verleiten oft zum Kauf. Sonderangebote verleiten oft zum Kauf. Ich finde Werbung manchmal zu übertrieben. Ich kaufe lieber wenig, aber dafür bewusst. Ich kaufe lieber wenig, aber dafür bewusst. Okay? The next category we have giving opinions and making arguments. Ich bin der Meinung, dass then your opinion or the argument you have. Okay? Dann meiner Meinung nach, ich finde es besser, wenn, ich glaube, wir müssen umdenken. Ein Vorteil davon ist, dass, ein Nachteil könnte sein, dass, was denkt ihr darüber? And the last category we have here connectors for writing or speaking. The connectors can be zum Beispiel außerdem, deshalb, trotzdem, einerseits, andererseits, im Vergleich zu. So these are some connectors you can use in your writing or speaking. So these are some useful phrases you can use in Umwelt or Konsum related conversation, and you can find the document down below in the description. Now let's wrap up the video. You learned how to talk about environmental issues. You can now give opinions and offer solutions. You now have phrases to talk about your own behavior. You know how to describe your shopping habits. So conclusion, congratulations on completing 14 day, and with today's lesson, you have just successfully completed second week. Congratulations. So what next? So as you can see inside of our agenda, we already went through the week number 1 and week number 2. So week 1 was all about B1 level grammar, and week 2 was all about the phrases you should learn to use in your everyday situations or day-to-day life. So in the week number 3, we are going to cover reading plus listening exam training. We will go step by step through every type of reading and listening task that shows up in the real exam with tips and practice. That means from the week number 3 and the upcoming weeks, we are only going to focus on the exam side. That means we are going to prepare for the actual exam. Okay. So see you in tomorrow's video in third week. Until then, take care. Bye bye.